to Australia now with Jaqui Lane. G'day, Jaqui. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Duncan. How are you going?
Good. Hey, this stuff around the corporate jargon I want to get to shortly and spend some time on it because I think what you've done is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
And I love it. And I'm with you on this. I have for some time thought anyone who uses the word advantageous and utilise. I've got a mate of mine who's in a business, and he's a bit of a joker, and he's good, but he hams up a bit. Whenever I hear the word advantageous and utilise, when he uses it, I think, mate, you're steady money from someone,
Yeah, advantageous for who?
It's good for me. It's an advantage, not advantageous. I mean, what a whole lot of crap. Anyway, I'll come to that shortly. I think you've done great work. But the King Charles, who has ignored us but came and saw you guys, Jacinta Price in her discussion with the King, that's it's been of interest, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, it's certainly got the attention of everybody, and that's why she did it. Everyone's always nice and polite, and it kind of reminds me decades ago. When feminists were railing against the world, they let Rice and Rats go in beauty contests. Well, Jacinta Price has done the same thing with royalty. Just gone in there and told it like it is.
So what did she say, and what's been their reaction?
Oh, look, I think the reaction has been, I think, pretty fair. I mean, most people have said, probably shouldn't have done it, not the right place, but she's got a point, but that's not the way to make it. Well, you know what, she did, and a lot of people agree with her, and some don't.
Yeah, sometimes you have to make the point in a controversial way, otherwise not heard, right? That's
exactly right. And so I think that there's, a reasonable amount of kind of support for what she's saying and a mixed reaction as to how she did it. But, hey, everybody's talking about it, so from her point of view, it's probably been very successful.
Is the monarchy and the king and the queen, I mean, how relevant are they? How relevant do the Australian people see them? The fact it's not the Queen, of course, it's the new broom. The new broom's in charge, and he hasn't really put a foot wrong, apart from the fact that he's crook and may not see much more time. So you guys get to see him. I mean, Aussies want to go Republic or not?
Yeah, well, we had a referendum on that a few years back, and it came back as a no. But I think that the country's probably pretty evenly split. I think for most people, it's just kind of a bit irrelevant. I don't, some people, are really pro-Republic, but I think for most of it, it's like, well, yeah, it's there, it doesn't really impact on us in a big deal, and at some point we probably need to move on, but do we have to do it in a hurry? Not really, and there's probably more important things to think about.
Well, there's the economy and there's jobs and there's all sorts of things, and the cost of living crisis. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, wasting a cent on a sort of a debate around constitutional issues right now is not wanted and not needed.
Absolutely.
It's not broken, so another day, thanks. What about Channel 9?
Well, what it does, I mean, it just goes from bad to badly to worse.
Man, it's just bad though, isn't it? Tell us more.
Pretty horrible. It's a bit of a shocker. So, firstly you have, their chairman, who's our former treasurer, Peter Costello, kind of shoulder bumps a journo, so that wasn't a good look. And so he resigned or left, and then like a month later, the CEO, Mike Sneesby, goes and sacks a bunch of people, and then a week later is swanning around in Paris over the Olympics and gets to do an Olympic torch run. So that didn't go down with all the journeys, so he left. And then like a month later, Darren Wick, who was the head of their news, gets hauled over the coals for bullying and sexist, misogynistic behaviour. So he's gone. And so now they've brought in, external advisors to do a cultural review.
Oh, no, they'll be paid millions. They'll be paid huge money to do this, won't they?
Yeah. And interestingly, though, the review was done and got made public. So, and the culture there, of course, what a surprise, is absolutely toxic. So I think just under 50% of the people in Channel 9 who actually took part in the review say they've either been bullied or harassed or sexually harassed or whatever. it's a shocker.
Yeah, if you're going to ask your newsroom, how they feel about things, you're going to get this. It's like the inmates are running the asylum, so they're going to tell you what they think, and this is exactly what's happened here. The last thing you want to do is ask these people because you know what the answer is.
Yeah, well, and look, and I think you make a great point. None of it's a great surprise, but the real question is really, how are they going to fix it? Because it's just so ingrained, and I guess you've got to fix it by shining a light on it in the first case, and then kind of show real action. It'll be interesting to see what the outcome is.
I wonder how different this is to a lot of these workplaces. Certainly in the newsrooms I've been in over the years, TVNZ, TV3 and everything. This is what they say, Jackie. So nearly a third of broadcast employees at 9 reported experiencing sexual harassment with sexually suggestive comments or jokes and intrusive questions about appearance or private life being common behaviours. Although sexual harassment most often occurred at work, social events where alcohol was present, they were found to be at risk. And that risk factor was sexual harassment. Known perpetrators of inappropriate workplace behaviours have not been dealt with. Rather, employees have been warned about interactions with certain individuals, are told to avoid contact. In other instances, leaders have been attempting to cover up. These behaviours have come at significant human cost. This has happened for decades. This is not new in most organisations.
Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because, everybody kind of knows, but nobody kind of says anything or does anything. And it's not limited to newsrooms. We've got a CEO here of one of our biggest companies, a guy called Richard White, who runs a company, or founded a company called WiseTech, and he's all over the front page of the paper because over the last 10 years he's been employing women and giving them lots of money and then buying them houses for some unknown reason, which has now become known.
Oh,
so
whoops.
Yeah. so yesterday, after 2 weeks on the front page of the financial paper, he's resigned as CEO, resigned from the board, and this is a company he founded, and it's a $4 billion global business. And he's in the tech industry, and it's a shocker.
You said his name is Richard. Can I just shorten and say, what did Dick get back in return?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious what he got, and more to come, I suspect.
Yeah, God, it's fascinating. I'm just looking at some of these some of the complainants at the Channel 9. Oh God, my God, It's got serious. And one of them said, "I've been on ice by my manager for speaking up about a story. Everyone calls it Punishment Island. When I was younger, I'd be in tears about something like this. I've now become disengaged." Another said, "I've endured thousands of microaggressions over time. It's death by a thousand cuts. There was a point when I wanted to kill myself." My goodness.
Yeah, and mostly directed at the females, but not exclusively.
No, not at all. No. 9 has apologised and promises changes, or they'll need a massive overturning. Massive. They have to be upended, basically, start again, almost.
Oh, I think so. And, really, when you look at it, they've lost their chairman, their CEO, their head of news in, 4 months.
Yeah.
So,
my goodness.
Yeah, and they probably needed to, and there's probably more that need to go. And I think that, kind of offline, the people who are left there are saying, well, the report's great, but what next? What are you actually going to do with the perpetrators of this stuff? Are they going to lose their jobs? How are you going to call them to account? Because if they don't, it will continue. No,
they need accountability. Accountability for the people within it has to be that people lose their jobs, because otherwise they're aided and abetted by the people who protect them.
Yep.
And so the company lawyers and company secretary, all these people who are doing the talking for them. They have to go. And the only way forward is a fresh deck. It's absolutely fresh deck of cards, and you start again. You can't have the same people there. You can't. You have to get rid of the toxic.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see if they do that.
Yeah.
And then if they don't, we might be having the same conversation in a year.
Australia's been blamed for climate disasters in the Pacific, and I'm happy for you to be blamed. I think you're probably responsible, aren't you?
Look, we certainly export enough coal and iron ore, and enough of the raw materials. So I think that you can't hide that, and the Pacific Islands are in our neighbourhood. So I think it's right and appropriate that we get hauled up for it.
Yeah, but someone has to do these things. I mean, someone has to have an economy that has jobs and well-paying jobs. Now, if you didn't have all those minerals, you wouldn't have all the fancy jobs. So, half your country is full of New Zealanders anyway, and half our country is now full of the criminals. So we've done a complete swap. We've done this swap. You guys have got the jobs, you've got the coal, you've got the iron ore and everything, and uranium, whatever. You've got it all there. You've got the jobs. I mean, what's the price? The price is jobs.
Yeah, and you make a good point. Australia started by convicts, so now they're all, we're shipping them all back to, we're shipping them off to New Zealand, and we've got the jobs. And look, it's a real, Australia has been built and continues to be built off its resources, and that's this country's natural advantage. In terms of, coal, this is going to sound a bit pandering, but we have some of the most environmentally friendly coal, if there's even a word for it. There's really dark bad coal, and then there's stuff that's still bad but not as bad. And so depending on which, if you have a job directly related to the industry or not, there's all kinds of things that go on around it.
Yeah, we had really good top grade coking coal is what they call it, in a place called Pike River, but we were so environmentally friendly that we went in there. We couldn't go in, with an open pit mines. We dug this 2.2 kilometre tunnel up there, and we're so cheap that we didn't get all the right safety measures in place, and the thing blew up. But we saved the snails. We saved the snails. We saved the snails on the way through, which is a good thing.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah, I know. But same about the result. Early election in Australia, yes or no? What do you reckon?
I've been punting an early election for a while, and I'm still going to call one. It's going to be interesting. Labor Party's running out of time to call it, but I just have a feeling that they might go early.
Because Albanese's not doing well in the polls, is it? Sort of flatlining, really.
Yeah, he's flatlining, and Dutton's kind of inching up to the, as a preferred Prime Minister, whereas, 5-6 months ago he was well behind. He's put forward, I call it, Dutton's going nuclear. Yeah. So he's putting a whole thing about, nuclear power. Australia trying to get its emissions down is proving much harder. Hello, what a surprise that is.
No.
Labor Party is just floundering. They can't seem to land on actionable outcomes for housing, rent, cost of living, migration numbers. Not landing on anything.
So in saying that, I suppose in comparison, even we've got a sort of a flatlining Prime Minister as well. He sort of doesn't really stand for much, and he's, compared to previous ones who all had sort of principles. The last one was sort of a bit odd, but anyway. So we have this guy, but at least our inflation rate has now come all the way down to 2%. It's sitting in the mid band of where the Reserve Bank wants it. So we're cutting interest rates quite vigorously now after having them far too high for too long and screwing people. The Reserve Bank governor here is sort of the devil incarnated really now in people's minds. But at least we've got the economy. So we've pulled it back, and it's now, we'll start again from the bottom up. Lots of hurt and harm and everything, but we're going to get there. This guy Dutton, he's been ambitious for a long time, hasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He's as Michael Law says, he's not the most attractive looking human being on the planet. But he's kind of very conservative, kind of. But at least, from a voter's point of view, you're not going to miss him on the way through and what he thinks about things.
No, that's for sure.
So, so you either like him or you don't, or like his policies or you don't, but you'll know exactly what they are. Yeah.
Speaking of attractive politicians, I think attractive politicians do get a better run. If you look at our Prime Minister, he looks like, if you think about it, an upside down, a talking thumb. If you think, if you were to move your thumb around with a mouth on it, that's like our guy.
Yeah, it does look a bit like that.
A little bit like that, isn't it? Okay, now this stuff that I want to get to. This is corporate speak, right? So this is when people, you've said people rely on it because it makes them sound smarter than they really are. It's one of the best lines I've heard in my life. It's so true. It's so true. People with all this, and we used to have one guy. I won't name him because it's probably a bit unfair, but we used to have one guy in radio who would say, we're going to push some wind into this and see what comes out the other side. Just all these lines, We'll blow some oxygen in there, mate. We'll see if it holds in the lungs. What the hell are you talking about? So, if you could get your ducks in a row and let's execute this discussion, what are we going to say about this? Give us some background to this.
Yeah, well, I'd like to hit the ground running if I could.
Well, moving forward anyway.
Moving forward. So part of what I do for a living is I'm a company historian. So companies contract me to research and write their history. And so I spend a lot of my time in and around corporate life, and I spend a lot of time writing about it, and I try not to use really what I call meaningless phrases, because, the idea of good writing, like good journalism, is to be concise and provide clarity. Well, kind of corporate jargon does the opposite. So if you think about some of the phrases that, drive me nuts, is let's get the ball rolling, or
yes.
let's think out of the box, or, let's get in the loop, or the one I can't stand is let me float this to the top of your agenda.
Oh, no, that's low-hanging fruit, isn't it?